who's an entrepreneur himself. All of these people just don't necessarily look like they should be Muslim, but they're embracing Islam. And I think this is, as soon as you break down that barrier of what a Muslim should look like, then it's open.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Islam adalah agama yang rahmatan lil alamin. Kalimat ini mungkin juga tidak asing lagi di telinga seluruh umat Islam. Hal ini tidak mengherankan karena kalimat rahmatan lil alamin ini memiliki makna yang sangat dalam. Rahmat lil alamin artinya rahmat bagi seluruh alam. Rahmatan lil alamin menunjukkan bahwa agama Islam adalah agama yang membawa kedamaian dan kasih sayang bagi seluruh alam. Secara umum, rahmat lil alamin artinya rahmat atau cinta kasih bagi seluruh alam. Hal ini merujuk dari asal mula dan arti perkata, yaitu rahmat yang berarti cinta kasih dan alamin yang berarti alam semesta. Jadi tak heran jikalau banyak orang non-muslim yang mempelajari tentang Islam, mereka akan tertarik untuk menjadi mualaf. Berikut ini adalah sebuah video yang diupload oleh channel YouTube Kizi, di mana ia menjelaskan alasan mengapa orang-orang barat banyak yang masuk Islam.
So I've seen some videos surface on YouTube, on different platforms, as to why so many people are reverting to Islam. You know, obviously I semi-recently reverted to Islam and it's been the best choice that I've ever made. And I believe that I have a bit of a different insight into why exactly people are reverting. So I'm just going to take you through all of the reasons that I can think of. I believe there's like 4 or 5. So I would say the number one thing that comes to mind is social media and just media in general. I think the way that the Western media has portrayed Islam is absolutely terrible. It is disgraceful. People are starting to see through that, and especially with social media, how it's used nowadays, how it's kind of normalizing Muslims in a sense, because up until very recently you kind of assumed that a Muslim was an Arab or a Middle Eastern, and you didn't really comprehend that those people only make up about 15% of Muslims, which is strange when you actually think about it. The top 5 most populated Muslim majority countries, Southeast Asia, South Asia and Africa, none of them are in the Middle East. Strange. A lot of Muslim creators coming out, a lot of them were born, say for example, in the UK or in the Western world, and I think that's important. That's kind of why I started my channel as well, is because I wanted to portray a sense of you don't need to look a certain way to be Muslim, especially if it's from, you know, a previous life. For example, I'm covered in tattoos. But yeah, the reason I started this channel was to show that, you know, you can have tattoos if it's from, you know, before you've reverted, and you can look a certain way and you can do this and that, you can be from a certain place, and as soon as you take your shahada, you're now a Muslim and you're part of the brotherhood or sisterhood, and that's amazing. So I think social media has really highlighted that. Even say for example hijabis, it's like, I remember before, not even too long ago, like people would look at hijabis or a niqabi or someone who wears a burqa and just be like, whoa, that is so alien. But now it's commonplace to see a hijabi walking down the street. Linking in with the whole sort of point of social media is that I've seen so many influencers or celebrities who have converted to Islam, and although their reasons might be a bit different, it might have been life events, it might have been they have a friend who's Muslim and who introduced them to Islam, or it might have been they did their own research and come across it randomly. Whatever it was, now they are the reason that other people are reverting, which is beautiful in itself. Say for example you're someone who loves boxing, you've always been a fan of Mike Tyson, and he used to live this extravagant, crazy lifestyle. Sounds kind of familiar to me, to be fair. Not to the same degree, obviously. He used to live this lifestyle and used to think, oh, like, you know, he's a bit wild, he's a bit like crazy or whatever. And then all of a sudden you see that he's way calmer now. He's Muslim. And you'll be like, wait, he doesn't look like he should be Muslim. And then you start to do your own research and you hear him talk about it. And although he's not the most practicing Muslim, if you're a big fan of him, you'd probably do some research into that, right? I think that sort of opens the door. And this is just one example of many. There are so many different celebrities. There was a famous fashion model who also recently reverted as well. And there's also that famous gypsy son of a billionaire who's an entrepreneur himself. All of these people just don't necessarily look like they should be Muslim, but they're embracing Islam. And I think this is, as soon as you break down that barrier of what a Muslim should look like, then it's open to everyone. important point to mention. And this one, I don't want to talk about too much. I don't want to mention certain things. There is a Western sort of agenda, and we all know what it is. There's like two different main components of it, and it's terrible. And both are being pushed in schools, in media, in TV, online, everywhere, in the workplace, everywhere, and you can't escape it. And I think for a lot of people, Muslims are starting to move out of the West. That's one thing. But also Western people, not every Western person is the typical liberal. I think a lot of Western people who live in Europe, live in the UK, live in America, a lot of those people are very much still traditional. Like, they still have those traditional values. They may be, I don't know, Christian, but they're not necessarily practicing. They may be Jewish, but not practicing. They might even be atheists and just not believe in these certain ideologies that the Western media and government and whoever else is forcing upon our kids. I say our kids, I haven't even got any kids, but you know what I mean. People see Islam as the sort of last stand, the one religion that isn't afraid to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We are not going to let our kids be indoctrinated into this. We are not going to let the government force this upon us. And you can see this especially all over the UK. I've seen it in America as well, where they have put some weird, I don't even want to say exactly what it is, but weird books in the library for kids to read, and parents are standing up and saying, no, enough is enough. People respect Islam. Islam is intolerant. You submit your will and your beliefs and your whole life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's one God and you submit to him. Doesn't matter who else tells you what to do, the government, whatever. You submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and this last one, is a bit controversial, links in with the whole celebrity thing and the social media thing, but there's one man who sticks out as probably the biggest revert that I can think of in the modern era, and that is Mr. Andrew Tate. Now, everybody has different opinions on Andrew Tate. Say whatever you want. He is a Muslim. You have to accept that. None of us can say he is not a Muslim. From what I've seen, especially on social media, is that there's been a massive influx of reverts, you know, of young men usually who have reverted because of him. You can kind of tell that it's because of him, because all of their other content is to do with red pill, masculinity, etc, and they haven't ever, and they don't even really have any Muslim friends. They haven't been exposed to Islam, but then all of a sudden they're, you know, reverting to Islam, which I'm not trying to put that down at all. I totally understand where they're coming from, and sometimes it takes just that one person to expose you to something for you to actually do some research into it, so not judging at all. And overall, I think it's a really good thing. I think it's amazing that somebody who has that much influence is positively contributing to young men and allowing them to see Islam for what it is. It's such a beautiful religion, and a lot of these young men wouldn't have known about it, or may have negative perceptions either from personal experience or from the media, whatever it was. The only concern that I have is that some of these young men are only doing it for Andrew Tate because they want to be. I remember when I was a kid and I would have like idols or whatever, stuff for a while, and I would somewhat worship them, and I would want to do everything that they did. Say for example, it was a footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo. The football boots that he wore, I wanted to wear it. I used to get my, well, not the most expensive ones, but the cheaper versions of it, I used to get my parents to buy. I used to wear the same football kit, same number on the back of my shirt. I used to do all of that. And I feel like some of these new revert Muslims are in some way doing that. Now, obviously, inshallah, I hope they're not. And I hope that they stay strong, stay steadfast, stay practicing. If that's the case, that is amazing. But I do have some worries that, say, for example, if Andrew Tate all of a sudden one day comes out and says, oh, I'm not Muslim anymore, I don't know if all of those reverts would stay practicing, if they would stay Muslim. That's the only concern I have. But overall, it's been massively positive. And yeah, I think those are the main reasons that I could really think of off the top of my head. But yeah, I'd be interested in hearing your guys' opinions, so leave it in the comment section below. I'm gonna pin a comment, so just reply to that or just leave a comment somewhere. Yeah, see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Orang-orang barat melihat agama Islam sebagai agama yang tersesat, yang tidak takut untuk berdiri dan mengatakan tidak. Untuk itu, mereka tidak membiarkan anak-anak mereka untuk dipengaruhi oleh agama Islam. Kita dapat melihat terutama di seluruh Inggris dan di Amerika, di mana mereka telah menempatkan beberapa hal yang aneh-aneh, seperti tempat-tempat yang aneh, buku-buku yang aneh tentang Islam di perpustakaan mereka untuk anak-anak membacanya. Allah Ta'ala adalah satu Tuhan, dan kita harus tunduk padanya. Semua permasalahan kita serahkan kepada Allah, karena semua keputusan hanya milik Allah. Mungkin itu saja. Wallahu a'lam bissawab.